This video will cover states in React. States contain information about a component. Whenever we have data that may change over time, say through user interaction or events, we have to use states. Let's see an example why we may need to change a state. So back in the code, first I want to comment this hello world component because we don't need it anymore. And inside of our source folder, I want to create another component called changing states.js, and inside we have to create a function, the exact same name, brackets, then curly brackets. Inside of this function, I want to create a constant called count, and I want to give it a value 0. And since this is a component, I need to return some JSX to render it on the UI, and I will give it a p tag, and inside of this p tag I will render the count constant. To understand clearly, I will write count before this as well. So back in the code, if I refresh, all right. So the thing is that we haven't really imported it inside the index file. So I have to import it inside the index file, and changing states, and I have to bring it inside the root.render. So we got an error. The reason is that we haven't really exported our changing state function. So export default changing state. Now if I see again on the browser, we can see that we have our count is equals to 0. Now we have successfully rendered the value of count on the screen, but what if I want to change the value of count later? Say, let's give this a React fragment so we can create multiple elements, and I will just create a button. I will call this button increment. If I click this button, I want the value of count to increase by 1 every time I click this button. So how can we do that? To do that, we have to use a hook called useState. So there are many hooks in React. I will not explain what a hook is in this video. I will dedicate an entire video regarding that, and how I will also show you how we can create a custom hook. But in this video, we will just see the useState hook. So the syntax of using the useState hook is that first we declare a constant, and inside of 2 third brackets, first we name our state. So I will name it count, and then we declare the function that will be responsible for changing our state. So the convention is that we give it the same name as our state, that is count, but we add the word set before it. So we have to camel case, and it will be equal to our useState hook. We have to import it from React, of course. I just auto imported this, but you may need to import it manually. And we give it a initial value. So I want to give it an initial value of 0. Now if I see in the browser again, you can see that we have 0. Now our job is not completed yet. We have to make it so that whenever we click this increment, the value of count increases. All right. So in order to do that, we have to create a function, and I will call it count up. And inside of this function, we need to increase the value of count. So I will use setCount function, and it will take a parameter count, and Then we have to increase this by 1. And now we need to connect this function with our button. And since I want this function to fire up every time I click this button, there is a event called onClick, and I will leverage this. OnClick will be equals to our countup function. Now, if I go back to the browser and click this increment button, we can see that the state changes whenever we click this increment.